Have you been stressed, anxious, or worried? Have you felt pangs of loneliness in recent times? Are you longing for greater connection with others in the world around you? In a phrase, are you looking for happiness? You are not alone. Millions of others are seeking this feeling of spiritual, mental, and physical wellness too. This podcast explores the underlying causes of unhappiness and shares with us the secrets of rewriting the frequent thoughts and redirecting the common behaviors that keep us in that state. Join forensic psychologist and best-selling author Dr. Neehall and her guests as they dive deep in the realm of psychological wellness and explore ways of finding happiness on demand.
Welcome to Happiness on Demand. My area of expertise is happiness, and I'm all into getting people to be happy and I'm not talking about toxic positivity, but embracing what you probably know a lot of, namely the ups and downs, in your case, of marriages or relationships, and how to move your happiness quotient, I guess, how to get couples to really connect. So without further ado, listeners, let me introduce you to Dr. Stan Tatkin.
Hi, and thank you, Joan, for inviting me.
Oh, my pleasure and privilege. So Stan, why don't I just turn the lens on you and you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, what you do, your passion, and how you do it.
Oh, my passion is couples.
Yes, just like mine is happiness, yours is couples.
That's my research. That's all I think about. That's all I write about. That's all I teach, and that's all I do. It took a while for me to find that as a focus, and so I developed an approach that is psychobiologically based. And so, what is psychobiology? It's the study of infant brain development and development through the lifespan, right? So It involves studying infants, attachment, arousal regulation, which is the autonomic nervous system, and developmental neuroscience. So those three developmental pillars form the basis of this approach, even though we implement, psychodrama, family systems, strategic and structural, fairness and justice theory, object relations and self-psychology, and it goes on. There's several things that we are trained to do: reading faces, all sorts of other things, somatic therapies. Yes. So we take anything that actually accelerates or works with the goal of getting couples to what we call secure functioning. And secure functioning is a set of behaviors. It's not the same as secure attachment. It leads to secure attachment.
That's that's a really good distinction for our listeners to get. Yeah.
It's basically a set of social contracts between people.
Yes.
That binds them to protect each other from each other in a very specific way. Mm-hmm. It's part of a co-design of a relationship, which has to be done consciously together as a collaboration, because it's a made-up thing. Relationship is made up in our heads, and if we're not the designers, who is? Well, likely our parents. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about how you do this.
How we do it?
Yeah, it's all up here.
I just say, do it.
All right. That's the PACT, right?
Right. Well, yes. I think because therapy is a collaboration, and all the way around. When we say a therapeutic alliance, whether it is in medicine or in therapy, that means that everyone understands their role. Mm-hmm. I am endowed by my patients to be a therapist. If they didn't give me that permission, I couldn't do what I do, right? And so the agreement to cooperate with each other, partners with each other, to collaborate with each other, partners with each other, and with the therapist is really key to any success. And that's sometimes hard won. Mm-hmm. And so today, at my age, I really want people to read my stuff because I'm very particular. I'm not the same as other therapists. I'm much more tactically oriented, and I'm much more science oriented. And so it's not exactly what other people expect in terms of therapy. It's different from individual work. We're dealing with what people are doing, not why they do it. If they're burning the house down, that's the most important thing. I don't care why. They shouldn't care why. Can't do it. And so not everybody's on board with that idea. And yet that's the only thing that will work, actually. And so we do it bottom up through staging things, staging in real time here. I can do bedroom scenes, and PG, not creepy. It's done in a very methodical way, but I can pull that out. These are hospital furniture.
Yes.
And so we have to stage things in order to stimulate the experience, because state drives memory, and
exactly.
people won't remember unless the state that is connected to memory is triggered a little bit. Mm-hmm. And so we have to, stage these things live in order to really know what's going on, because people's reports are never reliable. Never. Mine is neither, because I'm only talking through my own narrative, and my own narrative contains my history and my memory, and is biased towards my interests, not yours. Therefore, narratives are worthless for a couple therapists. You have to see it, or it doesn't exist.
Also, going bottoms up makes a big difference, doesn't it?
Yes, because most of this is autonomic. Most of this has to do with implicit systems that take over. Mm-hmm. For all of us, right? We're all the same in that way. Our threat system is very acute. Our survival instinct is always on, and our ability to pick up threat cues is legendary, because we're memory animals. We do everything by memory, including pattern recognition of threat. I see that you're looking at me a certain way. That reminds me in my head of somebody else who did that, and that made me feel less small. And so what do? I am aggressive, right? Because I'm threatened by that. You don't know that. And so my behavior threatens you, and now we're in a loop. That's the sad state of the human primate.
So the negativity bias comes into play then too, right?
Absolutely, and most people don't know that it exists. That our brain always tilts towards the negative for survival.
Exactly.
But it gets in the way of happiness, and it gets in the way of relationships, because that's why we go crazy if somebody doesn't respond to our email in a certain amount of time. We fill in the blank with the most negative idea based on our own narrative. And, it's interesting. You have 3 people in the room, and they would all react negatively to not getting a response, perhaps, but they would imagine something different, each of them, because they have different experiences, life experiences that match up. So that's a problem with human beings. And that's why we're better at war than love, unfortunately, as a species. Always been.
Mm. Your approach is definitely different, Sig, than the Gottman's approach.
Well, actually, John inspired me with his actual psychobiological investigations in his research, starting with heart rate. And that's, he, among other mentors of mine, got me going, plus my own experience, my previous marriage. It was because we didn't understand co-regulation of distress states. We kept getting in them and finding ourselves helpless every time and threatened. Had we known, we might have still existed, but we didn't know that. And that's why I started focusing on the autonomic nervous system as a primary issue in relationships, in a secure attachment as well, because we're animals.
Right.
and we react at lightning speed if we feel threatened. We don't. There's no executive in that subcortical region that recognizes or thinks it recognizes threat, and that becomes a problem for all relationships.
Absolutely. And yet your approach is different than John Gottman's approach.
Probably because Julie is largely responsible now, I think, for the actual approach, whereas John was the dude in the research area, and I think he had an inkling of an approach when I first met him, when I first heard him speak. But I'm not. I think the method. And I don't know because I haven't been around their workshops.
Yes.
I was only around John doing his thing. And so I don't really know, but I assume they have a methodology.
Oh, yes, they do.
Yeah.
I like yours because you really get the couple to get in touch with what's really going on. You don't waste a lot of time discussing you did this and he did that, but you get right into the kernel, get right into the problem right away.
Many of us were in the same group, same think tank. And so I know that my colleagues mostly agree with each other on the big things. On the big things, we agree. How we get to that is maybe different. Our entryway and what we focus on as most important may be different. But all roads should lead to Rome. Safety and security, happiness, and hopefully a well-oiled machine that's collaborative and cooperative with itself as a system. And I think everybody would want that. So we're not in opposition at all.
No, we're all getting to the same result, but some approaches are different than others. And, it's like thumbprints are different. So as you said at the start of this conversation, the relationship is so important.
Well, relationship, if you believe this, is probably the most important thing to us in when it's all said and done, I mean, end of life, that is the thing we mourn the most. Regret, if we didn't do this well, is, the bridges we burned with people that we loved.
How interesting, huh? That's a huge regret.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It kind of says something about what matters most to us.
Doesn't it just, huh? And I always say, I think that if you haven't had a full life, you won't, you have to have regrets in life is what I'm saying. You must.
I don't know how you couldn't.
So,
anybody who says no regrets, I think has found a way to ignore that idea.
I think psychopaths do very well without regrets.
There are a lot of really normal, average people who will say they have no regrets. And if you're at a certain age, I think that's great because who wants to approach the end, your near end of life regretting your life? That sucks. That's horrible. That's a terrible way to end up. And so the mind, if well adjusted developmentally, the mind naturally looks for what actually was great about my life, right? Regrets are for learning, right? If you don't regret, you don't learn. Peter Fonagy studied that.
Yes.
And with people gambling. And also with borderline personality disorder, that they tend to not regret their behavior that torches relationship. And so they repeat. So regret is sticks in our craw, and it prevents us from doing the same thing that caused the end of the relationship because we lost. The problem, if we didn't lose, then we don't regret it. In the case of, cheating or lying, right? If I don't lose as a liar and a cheater in some fundamental way, I don't have any regret, and I will do it again.
Well said, huh? And now, I said that's really well said, what you just shared with us, because I think it's very important to look at, if we look at end of life and then we bring it to the present, it certainly makes our day much more poignant, doesn't it?
Yeah. Regretting the past leads to changing the future.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all that exists, because the past is over. It's done.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason to use the past is to predict the future based on the past and to prevent the same thing from happening. Mm-hmm. That's how it's supposed to be. But a lot of people don't do this. They don't learn from their mistakes.
Have you found that in your couple's work as well, that a couple will end one relationship and go into another one and repeat the same dysfunctional patterns?
That's what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
And many of those people do what most human beings do. I'm unhappy. I don't know why. Oh, that's right. I just remembered. It's you. That's what we do. The low-hanging fruit is to blame the other person. The low-hanging fruit is to see the differences between us and focus on them and how we are not the same. That's why we otherize. And so that is the nature state of the human primate. We have to rise above that in order to have a good life, not just a decent one. And that takes effort. Unfortunately, because of energy conservation, the law of energy conservation, which is biology, leads us to do the least amount necessary.
Exactly. Yes.
It's not our friend when it comes to love relationships. And that's when we drop formalities. That's when we stop looking and paying attention. That's when we stop being curious because we think we know the other person. And all sorts of bad things happen because of energy conservation. Because of this, we don't put the effort out anymore. We got the gig,
mm-hmm.
Right? I don't need to do those things anymore. And that's a mistake.
You know what Esther Perel says, of course, about relationships.
What does my friend Esther say?
I love Esther. She's so rambunctious. She says, well, in the past you got married so that you would live happily forever. Happily ever after. That's why you got married and you stayed married.
Yeah, it's magic.
Till death do us part. And if it was a bad marriage, you'd hope and pray that he would die soon.
Yeah, can I die a little sooner, please? Because I'm not that happy.
Exactly. And then she says, nowadays it's a bit different. We get married to stop having sex with other people. And when the relationship does, we get married as well until such time as something better is out there in the horizon. And,
I think that's a little narrow. I think there are a lot of other reasons, okay, whatever. She's European, and okay. But yeah, we're complicated in our relationships. We're not actually complicated as a species. We all do the same stupid shit. And anyone who thinks otherwise is naive, right? But we're idiosyncratic in a lot of other things, right? And it's in that idiosyncratic area that you cannot really pigeonhole these whats and whys. And there's only so many possibilities, but still they're much more variable than the things that we know that our biology and our neurobiology will drive us to do if we're under enough stress. And that's where I focused, is the performance of a couple. Can they remain collaborative and cooperative and have a team approach under stress? That's the litmus test, and that's hard to do. Everybody can do it when they're feeling good. It's when one of us is feeling bad that the challenge is there, right? And that's the only thing that matters. How good do you perform when you're the most at stress or in distress? Do the wheels come off? Or can you take the load bearing, and are you skillful enough and prepared for the worst? That's what I want with couples.
Mm. Yeah, that's so very important, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. And, you're right. That is the litmus test. And so many couples fail at that point.
Yeah, because you're human. And if you don't know what you're dealing with in nature, in our own nature, it's going to win every time. And you'll blame the other person because of it. Most of the things we do isn't personal. It's reflexive and automatic based on memory. It feels personal, but it really isn't. We're kind of dumb in a lot of areas. And we assume a lot of stuff. We make a lot of errors in thinking that, our perception is correct. It isn't. We think our memory is perfect. It isn't. We think that we're communicating perfectly well. We're not. We don't know. We're mostly misunderstanding each other, and which is why we're so sloppy. Military isn't sloppy because they know that. Other, institutions where being really doubly clear is so very important. They know this, and so, but the average Joe doesn't.
Do you think there's a distinction there between the military, say, and a couple, because emotions get in the way, whereas with the military, it's just black and white. These are the rules. Let's go on with it.
They prepare for emotions getting in the way because it can cost lives.
Exactly.
And so it is a team think in terms of what is our purpose? Well, the purpose may be one is definitely to stay alive, right? To keep each other alive. And there's an ethic where, as if I would be told, I'm not important. The people to my left and right are more important because they're going to save my life as I'm going to save theirs, right? And so the emphasis is on interdependence, right? It's not a solo sport, right? That can cost lives. And so that's embedded into the culture and trained into them. And that's why their relationships with each other last so long and sometimes closer than any spouse can get to, because they have a shared purpose and vision together, right? And that binds them. They have proof. But that's because the structure forced them to do that, right? Cop car partners, they have to survive. And so they become really tight, even though they would never have picked each other as friends, right? But the job, which has a very direct purpose and a vision, we want to stay alive and we want to do our job, right? Is where they agree and are the same, and that holds them together. And they sometimes have a better marriage than their marriages because they spend so much time together. And with this shared purpose, same with people that are fire people, work for the fire department. So this exists, but the situation, the context forces people to work together. Whereas in couples, there is no context. There is no idea of, what matters the most. As you said, happily ever after. Love will, win out. No, feelings are what's causing the problem. You create a structure and limits to protect feelings. Because if feelings are involved in the structure and the design, watch out. Because my feelings, like everyone's, come and go. They change. And if I'm expected to do the right thing when it's the hardest thing to do, it better not be based on feeling. Mm-hmm. It better be based on a purpose that I buy into. Otherwise, I won't come through, nor will you. And so I think people need to know this and not just assume that they're on the same page and that they're going to do things without an agreement and permission to enforce, right? Couples don't do this. They don't design their relationship. They don't build in governance measures to protect themselves from each other. Oh, she'll never do this. I would never do this. Bullshit. Plan for your devils, not your angels, because devils we are if the mood hits, if the pressure is so, if the distress is this much, if the opportunity is there, right? We are greedy, selfish, self-centered, opportunistic animals. Always have been. We're much more warlike, and we're easily influenced by group, and we're fundamentally racist in the sense that we otherize everything. Everything. Anybody who's too familiar to ignore, but too different to live with. That could be our kid. That could be our neighbor. That could be our spouse. That's a quote from Yuval Harari's book, *Sapiens*. So this is, we have to understand, and unfortunately, there's no education about our brain, no education about how the brain works and doesn't work, no education about how to sustain relationships properly. In tribal areas, that's all taken care of. Right? It's very tight and everyone knows what they're supposed to do to get along.
I was just going to ask you about that, actually. When you used the word interdependence, it resonated with me. And I thought, well, there are cultural differences in here now, aren't there? I mean, in the past, we lived in a village, and I had my granny and my great granny, and we all got together, we chatted. And if I had a hard day, I didn't go to my husband, I went to granny. I had other people around me, and everyone knew each other's business better than we did, It was so neat. And now we don't have that anymore.
No, we pray at the altar of autonomy and independence.
Individualism, but there is a cultural component to that, huh?
Yes, because well, look at America. Don't tread on me. My rights supersede yours. Don't get in my way. I'm a self-made man. All these bullshit ideas. You have to love yourself before you can love another. Another bullshit idea doesn't hold water in terms of development. It's not how we're wired. And so we have these ideas that has been leading us slowly to isolation and despair, where we no longer, commune together, raise kids together. You're not allowed to say something to a child who's acting badly in public. You'd be sued. In my day, everyone was responsible for bad behavior.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. The village has disappeared. And with that going,
yes. I mean, and we're going to pay the price. We already are paying the price.
We are paying the price because, Stan, in my work, what I'm dealing with is clients who see me because they're lonely, they're disconnected, and not just in terms of their relationship. If it's a relationship issue, I refer out. But I'm talking about a fundamental lack of connection.
Because we're herd animals. We're not lone wolves. We're not like the hyenas. We're not wired that way. We do best with others. We don't do very well at much alone. For one thing, there's nobody there to give checks and balances. But we know we heal faster when we're in the company of others. We recover faster if we're upset in the company of others. Everything better in the company of others if the conditions are right. Not always that, because if the conditions are wrong, I want to get out of here. Mm-hmm. But that's how we actually are. And it's not our nature to distance. It's not our nature to be alone. It's to stay alone. It's not our nature to be independent as people operating. Right? Independence comes out of dependency. A lot of people who are independent are allergic to dependency and stay as far away as they can from it, even though that is their nature. Yes. If they're scared enough, if they're in enough pain, they kind of find this. And so it's denied because of their training early on, because it is trained into them to do this very early on in a family culture that lacks attachment values, and that's what we've discovered through years of research. Right? It's not a pathology; it's just an adaptation to one's environment. And so we call those people in the distancing group. And they have a predictable developmental trajectory. And there's people who are insecurely attached there, insecurely attached in the clinging group, right? Two sides of a similar coin. And that is solely because of adaptation during infancy, which you can see right away, to what is expected implicitly and what is not allowed implicitly, and what's offered and what's not offered.
Yes.
And sadly, people who are neglected on an attachment level are unaware of what they missed. And anybody else who expects attachment values, thinks they're needy, because it makes sense. If I never had it, there's something wrong with you.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Makes sense, right? So it's a disadvantage for those folks because they have no idea what they've missed. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I'm saying, this is all the ways that we misunderstand each other and ourselves. I mean, it's, understanding ourselves and others takes willingness to be curious and to explore. Otherwise, we otherize. We dismiss. We focus on where we're different and how we disagree. Always.
You're right. And now I know that I only asked for 30 minutes of your valuable time, but and you were so generous to give us your time and your expertise. I'd like to wrap it up by asking you to highlight some key takeaways for our listeners from your area of expertise, please.
The two of you are in a system that you've made up. There is nobody else but the two of you. Mm-hmm. And if you are not hands-on, both of you, with the design and structure of this relationship to your own delight, your own happiness, because this is based on terms and conditions, not love, deal or no deal, right? Then you're going to have trouble. Everybody will. Without an idea of yourselves, the purpose, why are we, who and what do we serve, we do hurt each other naturally, and unions can't survive without a shared purpose and a shared vision. That's what holds people together, continuously having that. And so build it. Build it to you, tailored to what you want. The other person just has to want the same thing. If they don't, it won't work, right? And that's what you're going to vet, and that's what you're going to test. And, if you're pointing in two different directions on big ticket items, it will never work.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, the attachment bond is a biological, existential demand. I can't quit you, biology. And that holds us together when we maybe shouldn't be. Even though it's a lovely thing that, that's nature's glue. And so that goes against happiness, right?
Right.
We can't quit you means I'm going to stuck and I can't do anything because I can't lose you. That's a recipe for misery.
Mm-hmm. Stan, this has been marvelous. I'm sure our listeners have gained a lot. I certainly have from listening to you, from getting your wisdom. And I want to thank you. And listeners, if you need to get a hold of Dr. Tatkin, you can get him on his website. I'll post that later on for you. If you have any questions, feel free to get a hold of me on www.neehall.com. And if you like this podcast, please share it with others. Thank you so much, Stan.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining this discussion on happiness. We hope this helps to inspire you to lead a more joyful life. To dive deeper into the subject of happiness, be sure to check out Dr. Neehall's book, Happy is the New Healthy, available as an ebook or hardcover. For additional resources, visit our website at drneehall.com. Until next time, stay happy.